The following thoughts on Happy Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Happy Hour.
Are you feeling classy today? Sit down, pour a glass of wine, and listen to Happy Hour.
You're tuned in to Happy Hour, an hour where Happy rants about something. Sit back and listen in. Happy Hour is on now. Happy Hour is on now.
Yo, what's up? This is Happy Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppy. And we have so much to get into today. We have a new segment that I am very proud of, that I am very pumped to get going. But first, to get into contact with me, it's not hard. It's not rocket science. All you have to do is tweet at me, at Ryan Hoppy Radio, and you can tweet at my co-host, Kyle V, at Hoppy Radio. Kyle, what's up, dude?
What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. We are sharing the mic right now because who do we have live on Happy Hour right now?
Live in studio, we have private investigator and now friend of Happy Hour, Andrew Carlton of Carlton Litigation Consultant. What's up, bro?
How's it going, guys?
I'm doing good, man, because I've been looking for a professional to get on the show because Carlton has Ask the Dom, and I love what he does with that, where you find out things about the law. But I didn't really want to copy him and get a lawyer in, so I was really pumped when you sent me that DM last month about trying to get you on, so I'm happy to have you here.
Glad to be here, and I think it'll be an awesome stroll down podcast lane. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I'm not as awesome as Ask the Dom, Mr. Dominic Ferriola. But
you're a PI, man. It's badass.
Hey, lawyers contact me because, private investigators in general, they give lawyers the ammunition they need for trial. So any case they're working, whether they're going to trial or they're trying to get some leeway and some elbow room with the prosecutors if it's a criminal case, they definitely contact us. And it's an interesting career field. I can, definitely go over some of what I do with you and just give you my my expertise for your show.
Now, how long have you been doing this job? When did you first get your foot in the door as a PI?
Well, there's an interesting story behind that. I was with the sheriff's office for 10 years. While I was at the sheriff's office, I did everything from patrol. I was a hostage negotiator. I was a violent crimes detective. I got in a motorcycle accident in 2007 and kind of put an end to my career there. And I went back into the civilian life, and I had done photography for a while. I still am an avid photographer, and I tried to make it in the photography industry. But it was 2007, 2008, right around the financial crisis, of America. And it was just scraping the barrel to get by in the photography industry. So I did what everybody would do. I just put my bootstraps on and I went back to work. And actually I sold cars at Nissan for a little while. And that was actually a really cool job. I miss selling cars, as weird as that sounds. It was one of the coolest jobs I had. You met a lot of cool people. You got to drive a new car every day. But I worked at Nissan. And then I went to do some administrative stuff at a local college, and I did that for a while. Long story short, I had an old colleague of mine give me a call, and he's like, Andy, man, you really need to check out this career, investigative work. You can get your license very easily. And I put it off for like a year. I blew him off, and he called me back, and he's like, man, you'd make some good money doing this. You'd make a lot more in this field than you would being a cop. So I finally took him up on it and got my feet wet in the industry, and before you knew it, I had my own agency. And right now I have about 50 law firms that hire me for family law cases, criminal law cases, you name it, personal injury cases. So they hire me. I call myself a hired gun. So they hire me and send me out on whatever odd jobs they need done.
You say you make more than a cop. What's a PI usually make on average?
It's a good question because I get called all the time by interns, and the state of Florida is very, very strict when it comes to the PI, private investigative industry. Some laws don't have very strict laws, or some states don't have very strict laws. Florida is not that way. So basically, there's an internship that you're required to go through, and I have interns that they get their intern license, and I have to sponsor them. So I get called all the time. They're like, "Hey, will you sponsor me? I'm looking to get in the investigative industry." And I'll be honest with you, if you don't have any background in law enforcement, you don't have any military investigative background, it's not going to be the most lucrative career for you because, I pay my interns, but in order for a law firm to really want to bite into your company and trust you as a partner, more or less, they want to see that experience behind your agency. So as an agency owner, the what I make is going to be much different than somebody coming in saying, "Hey, I want to be a private investigator." So just to kind of give you a rough idea, an intern coming in can make $12 an hour. An agency owner could make upwards to $110 an hour. So it really depends on the case you're working in. Some investigators for like personal injury, they do cases on where it comes into play as far as the law firm's. It's a contingency basis, so the law firm's not going to be paid on a personal injury case sometimes for 2 to 3 years. So you do your work, and it's basically you agree on the law firm that you're going to get a percentage of the settlement. So it really depends, but I love the money I make. I love my job. I love my hours and my schedule. And I'm not trying to knock people who want to get into the industry, but it does take quite a bit as far as the lucrative aspects of it. It takes a lot of experience for you to jump in that position.
Now, I came out of the military, military 4 years, Marines. Now I switched over to National Guard, which I'm not proud of. I don't really like claiming. But
well, I would definitely claim that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, coming from the Marines into an Army branch isn't the best thing, but I'm military police.
Okay.
So how long does it take if I say, hey, I want to be a PI going in as an intern? How long till I move over?
Okay, the state of Florida, and it's Florida State Statute 493 is the statute to read up on. The state of Florida requires an intern to intern for 2,000 hours.
Oh.
Okay, in order to get your C license. So as an intern, you have a CC license.
Mm-hmm.
When you have your C license, that is declared you a private investigator. So the way it works is the plan, and the state of Florida is very tricky about this. An agency has to basically sign off on the hours that you're working for that agency.
Okay.
So if you are not able to work for that agency as a full-time intern, they have a habit of not counting those hours. So if you're working for an agency for 20 hours a month or 20 hours a week or 15 hours a week, and then that they do a semi-annual report for your hours, and if you're not adding up as a full-time employee, a lot of times they don't count your hours. And I've seen just a lot of interns really upset because they've been with an agency for 4 or 5 years, and the agency isn't they're not hiring them as a full-time intern, and they've had their intern license for sometimes 5-6 years. And I know one of Dom's secretaries just received her C license, Shelby. So she's now a fully licensed C license investigator. It took her a while to do that, and it's worth it though once you get it, because it opens up a lot of doors for you.
Well, you say you come in as an intern at $12 an hour or whatever. Once you switch over to that investigator, do you still work under you, or what do you do? Do you go out and do your own thing? How
no, you are required to work for an agency. Mm-hmm. Okay, and these are very strict laws in the state of Florida. Again, so if you have a C license and you are working outside of an umbrella of an agency, you're technically committing a misdemeanor.
Gotcha.
You have to work under the umbrella of an agency that is insured and all that good stuff. I guess, and I'm assuming in the 80s when I was, 7 and 8 years old, there were investigators that had a lot of issues, and the state of Florida made a lot of laws to get Florida on track. But your interns, I know some agencies that don't even pay their interns.
Nice.
And it's ridiculous, but I pay my interns. I have right now 4 interns. The state of Florida only allows an agency to have 6 interns at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of limited on how many interns you can have. Now, as far as what type of work you do, what type of work did you do in the military? Military police, but
yeah.
did you was it a more of a patrol aspect, or were you doing crime scene investigations? Or?
No, it was more patrols and stuff on getting calls and stuff. Going to report like DVs or anything like that. We did the unit I'm with now is actually we kind of do an echo job, but we're not an echo unit, which is weird. So we're like cage kickers.
Okay.
More of prison aspects and stuff like that.
Because what you can do if you have investigative experience, the state of Florida will count that towards your intern time.
Gotcha.
So a lot of I just hired a guy that had 6 years at Largo PD, and he got his intern license, but quickly got his C license because he had the investigative background. Yeah. Also, if you have college, a bachelor's degree will also give you time on your intern's license. So different things that they'll count.
Well, it must
towards
jump quite a bit if they're making you start at 12 and then you end up at some point. I don't know if is it just the owners that make more than police officers, or is it the actual investigators that? Because like TPD is 50 starts you at 57.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they're at right now.
They started about.
But 50. I have a lot of friends at TPD and sheriff's office, and I have several of them that are about to retire, and I definitely plan on bringing them on once they're retired. But I have a friend of mine that's a polygraph examiner for the sheriff's office locally, and there's so many different fields within the investigative side of the private industry. So you have you specialize in something.
Yeah.
I have obviously a lot of accident reconstructionists, interview interrogators. It's just you can go on and on. But I would imagine you being in the Marines, you have a background of a lot of personal security as far as even in the private sector.
Oh yeah.
And that's a huge thing too, is getting into personal protection, armed bodyguard, that type of thing.
Do you know how to get into all that stuff too?
Yeah, I mean, my
is that something that you guys do or no?
We do, but it's a lot of it's not something. And again, you try to get known for something in the industry.
Yeah, that's
nothing I'm known for. So if I had a call, I've done it a few times. But the state of Florida, again, when you start carrying a firearm, they want you to be licensed for that separately. So even though I have a concealed weapons permit, in order for me to carry a firearm on while I'm doing a private investigative related activity, they want me to have a Class G license.
Yep.
So it's a whole licensing umbrella, and the state of Florida, they they really have it under their grips.
The G license actually isn't that hard to get.
It's not at all.
It gets handed to us with the military police here in Florida.
It's not difficult to have, but as an agency owner standpoint, it jumps your insurance up through the roof once you start adding on.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I do arm protection, I do this, I do that, and then everything. Like my agency, I could give you a list of what we do. Everything from process serving, serving subpoenas and summonses. Mm-hmm. We do DUI mobilizations, which is basically putting the lock on somebody's car when they're convicted of a DUI that the courts require as a part of their probation to lock their car up for 10, 30, or 90 days. I do terminations. So if a company doesn't want to terminate their employee, we go in and we walk them out of the building.
Gotcha.
So there's so many little things that you can get involved in with the private investigative industry. I have a separate company called CLC Screenings. I do tenant background checks for rental units and pre-employment screenings. That's totally kind of a different subsection of division of my company. But whenever you get a call and have a personal injury attorney that says, hey, I've got a traffic crash or this, that, and the other, I will contact one of my specialists that is, either a crash reconstructionist. Now it's even drone video is coming out where now the FAA is restricting how you can use the drones. That was kind of a go-to when those first came out. Everybody was looking forward to using those, and now they've restricted the use on those. But you can get into all kinds of little things.
Gotcha. What is like the average day for you? You go into work. What's the what's the runaround you go to?
Oh my goodness, depending on the day, you will have and again, whatever case you're working. I right now I would say close to 150 cases open right now. So I have one of my clients is a credit union, so we get all their repos. So we have to track down the people and find their vehicles. So whether it's that or a family law case where I'm doing an actual surveillance, I've had surveillances last up to 3 to 4 months. And when you're doing a surveillance, you have to match the person's schedule. If it's somebody that wakes up at 5 in the morning to start their day, or 11 a.m. or 3 p.m., so be it. That's what you have to match your schedule to. But even as an agency owner, a lot of my time is spent doing administrative work, doing invoicing, doing marketing, a lot of client networking. I go to a lot of events to shake hands and kiss babies, things like that. So it really depends on the day.
Now, do you ever find yourself burning out, man? Because
no,
dude, I see this like level of just how hard you are working. I mean,
I work
it
every
seems
day.
like you're working on so many things at once. Do you write it down on a notepad? How do you organize it? Because I'm just overwhelmed listening, so I respect what you do. So how do you keep track of everything you're up to?
In this industry, you make a lot of phone calls. You hopefully you're working with, again, I have about 50 law firms that I work with, so you have to really reach out and touch each firm on a regular basis, and just it's a lot of emails, a lot of texting, a lot of going over and having dinner or drinks, whatever. You just kind of get used to speaking and communicating with attorneys on a regular basis and their needs. But and even keeping track of my investigators, I have to talk to them every day and say, hey, what are you working on? Where are you at?
Yeah.
This case is a priority. And that's what a lot of firms don't understand is they'll call me and they'll say, hey, I've got this case. I've got a client coming in. I need you at 3 p.m. for a consultation. And I actually go in with the attorney into their consultations. And I have to change my whole day. I literally have to reorganize and change things around. So I get a lot of, if I have to go to court, we do when there's a jury that's selected, we'll do background checks on the jurors. We'll check their social media and make sure they're not posting about the trial.
Have you seen anything weird that they've put on, like, let's say, Facebook or Twitter? Anybody in general that you maybe worked with? I
personally haven't busted anybody, but in my career, even in law enforcement, I've had a few mistrials and juror misconduct discovered. But to me, it's worth the firm putting the extra time in to investigate that. Especially, I just got done with a murder trial over the summer. That it was a week-long trial, and every day, you had to keep monitoring the jurors and making sure things were, done properly. But again, that's just a very small percentage of what my company does. So while you're doing that, you're also getting emails from other clients saying, hey, I've got a DUI coming in. Can you go measure the roadway? Can you go pull video? Can you go to the jail and interview this defendant? So it's a nonstop. I swear, I never have a day off. But sometimes I work one day, sometimes I work 12 hours a day. It's like it's all over the place.
Now, how many DUIs do you have to deal with? Because whenever I drive home here late at night, I swear to God, I at least see 4 drunk drivers that are so obvious on the highway. And I'm from the Midwest, obviously, with my accent. And I never, ever saw that many obvious drunk drivers. Would you say Florida has an epidemic with drunk drivers? Because I swear, I'll see them during the day as well.
Florida likes to party. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there are a lot of DUIs, and I think part of the issue is, DUI, it's a misdemeanor. It's honestly something that, you have judges that have DUIs. You have teachers, doctors. I would say 75% of my friends have had a DUI. It's just so common here. It's not really considered an extreme until somebody ends up getting hurt or killed, and unfortunately that happens. But Florida, I think what you have to realize is when somebody gets a DUI, there's 2 cases technically going on, because you have the Department of Highway Safety Motor Vehicles that has an administrative case against you, and then you have the criminal trial.
Yeah.
So there's 2 separate situations going on. The administrative penalties on a DUI, in my opinion, are far worse than the criminal penalties. So you kind of have to deal with both, and I help attorneys with both of those sides of the issue. And DUIs are just interesting because obviously there's a lot of science behind obtaining the evidence involved in a DUI conviction, and a lot of firms don't in my opinion, don't really understand a lot of the science behind the breathalyzers and a lot of the horizontal gaze nystagmus that goes on. So I think if somebody gets a DUI, they need to go to a DUI specialist, somebody that specializes in DUI. Obviously, you don't want to hire somebody that focuses on bankruptcy to handle your DUI. And even some of the criminal attorneys I know don't feel comfortable doing DUIs anymore, and they'll refer it to a DUI specialist.
And now, what is your take on checkpoints? Because to me, I think it's a way for them just to give out tickets to maybe fill up the quotas. What is your take on DUI checkpoints? Right.
So let me bust the myth. This has been a myth for a long time. I know there are agencies that have been under scrutiny for quotas. When I was in law enforcement, I never walked into a squad room and had a sergeant tell me, Andrew, you got to get 10 tickets today, or you have to get 5 tickets today. So I personally never had to deal with any quotas. DUI checkpoints, they are honestly, they're events that are kind of pressured by Mothers Against Drug Driving. So MAD will be on an agency's ass to conduct these checkpoints because they are very political. And you'll notice the sheriff's office will be the ones having the checkpoint. You won't, for the most part, you won't see a police department doing checkpoints.
See, in Chicago, all the local suburbs did it, each individual town.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about up north, but here, the sheriff's office is an elected position. The sheriff is an elected position. The police department, the chief of police, that is you're sworn in by the mayor, and you are now the chief. Congratulations, you've been hired for this job. So they don't care about voters per se, and you'll see the sheriff's office is pressured by voters because the sheriff can be unelected, and you'll notice when it's time for a sheriff to be elected, things get different at the sheriff's office.
Yeah,
the city, they're going to maintain. I mean, obviously, a mayor is a different situation, but I worked for a sheriff's office, so I saw a lot of the political influences that are involved with working with the county. Yeah. So, checkpoints in general, are they beneficial? I would say yes. I'm sure there are a lot of lives saved by checkpoints. Are they abused?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you're going through a checkpoint and you have a blinker out, you have a headlight out, there's no need to search your car. And I think a lot of checkpoints kind of push drivers into that,
They sort of like pressure you and they make you nervous by the vibe.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people get nervous just by getting pulled over. I mean, I personally don't get pulled over or nervous if I'm pulled over. Some people, they get nervous if there's a cop behind them. People are, they have their own, issues. But checkpoints in general, I think if you hand an officer your license during a checkpoint and you obviously don't appear that you're impaired, they should just leave it at that. It should strictly be for a 30-second observation period to check your motor functions to see if you're impaired. And by me talking to you for 30 seconds, I should be able to, based on my experience, get a hint of whether or not you're impaired. If I feel that you're impaired, then okay, pull to the side, let me talk to you for a little bit longer. Other than that, cut them loose. I don't understand the pulling, writing tickets that much. But
you're pretty much screwed, dude. Every time you get pulled over, you look impaired, you sound impaired. You're getting pulled over every single time, pulled out of the car.
It's very odd. I've been pulled over before. I used to hang out with a sketchy crowd back in the suburbs. So it was one of those things when I was like, fuck the police. They are abusing their power. But now that I look back, of course, if I'm hanging out with the sketchy kids in the suburbs, they're going to pull us over. So now I have a newfound respect for cops. But, man, there is a lot of profiling when it comes to the cops, man. I mean, I know people try to overlook it, but if you're in a car with 3 black kids, they pull you over for going 5 miles over the speed limit. But if you're in a car with 3 white kids, it's okay to go 15 over. I'm just saying that might be more up north, but that's what I can tell when it comes to cops. I mean,
well, here's how I look at it. I mean, I worked in the high crime areas my whole career. I mean, I worked in areas that crack was being sold on the corners. Just there was a fist fight or a police pursuit either in your vehicle or on foot every day. So I know my neighborhood. Okay, I know who lived on each block, who lived on each street. I knew when you're working in an area, it's kind of like you walking through the Cox Media building. You know who belongs where.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were walking through the hall at Cox Media and you saw somebody you've never seen here before and they just weren't acting like they were in this media crowd, you might raise a suspicion.
That's a good point.
So when I'm working in neighborhood and I say, you know what, I've never seen that car before. I've never seen that driver, and this could be whether they drive by for, I get a look at them quickly or they're parked at the store, whatever the reason. We know our neighborhoods, and it would be a circumstantial evidence type of situation, but you're not going to, in my opinion, you're not going to pull somebody over and start searching pockets based on that type of information, but it's enough to raise an eyebrow. And that's what a lot of these investigations start out with is, you know what, that raised my eyebrow. Now let me run that tag. Oh, and now that the driver of that vehicle, the registered owner, has a suspended license. Okay, let me run their history in my computer. Oh, they've been arrested for cocaine possession 5 times. Oh, and they're in a high crime area. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop them and I'm gonna investigate that. That's the way I used to do my traffic stops. So obviously the media doesn't tell you that line of that line of events of how an officer obtains their desire to pull somebody over.
It seems like the media leaves everything out just to fill their agenda or their plot line. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's the media is a financially driven market, and whatever they can get to have somebody click on a video or click on their website or to retweet. I mean,
clickbait.
Yeah, and that's what it is. So they want viewers, they want attention, and that's what that's the society that we're in.
Now, have you ever covered a case that made big news? Obviously, don't say the name, but have you ever covered one that made big news, but it was one of those things where the media spun it around and it annoyed you?
Well, I mean, obviously, when I was a hostage negotiator, I handled quite a few cases where if there was a negative outcome to that situation, a negotiator is the last person on the end of that that phone. And when you have somebody with a shotgun to their mouth, and you've been talking to them for 8 hours, trying to get them to let the wife out of the bedroom and put the shotgun down, that draws media attention. As far as them spinning it the wrong way, it's been a while since I've been in the law enforcement industry, and honestly, things have changed so much since I left. I wouldn't want to be in law enforcement right now. I mean, you get out of your car and somebody puts a phone in your face. It's a very
What do you think of the whole social media thing where they try to mess with cops for that pathetic website Cop Block, where they're just trying to screw over cops?
Well, even if the intent is proper and these people are trying to get the bad apples out of law enforcement, which I'm all for, what they have to understand is that they are interfering in an investigation. And now a lot of people are just fighting with law enforcement just so they can be on YouTube or just so they can be the next sensation.
Yeah.
When I was in law enforcement, we would get a lot of people that would want to fight us or get into an altercation so they could try to sue us.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh man, this is my $6-figure settlement here that I'm going to get in this fight with this cop. He's going to break my leg or he's going to tase me or do whatever." You would arrest somebody and they would break their fingernail and want to go to the hospital. And, that's what we had to deal with. But now it's just completely off the chain as far as people wanting to get, their mug on a cell phone video for 30 seconds and that's the thing. You get a clip of a 30-second altercation on a cell phone where the actual incident was 15 minutes. And I'm not going to make a decision on my opinion, of what the incident, how we live in a society where we're judged by our peers. And unless somebody says you're guilty after a trial, I'm not going to sit there and say that this situation was done correctly or not. I'm not going to make an opinion off of a 15-second video. I'm the type of person I'll wait until I hear all the evidence, and that's kind of what I'm trained to do. But you see so many people just, they're quick to judge, and I think that's unfortunate.
Now, what are some of the weirdest things you have ever seen when you've worked in bad parts of neighborhoods? Have you ever seen anything that you might see in a show like The Wire?
I would always get happy when I would see a naked lady somehow as I was working the street. You'd get these calls. It was so funny where it's like, caller advised there was a lady standing naked in the front yard of their house. And it's like, okay, you have 5 units attached to that call and run priority. No, but you would just get all kinds of calls. And I mean, I 10 years of dispatch calls and investigative work
it's
at
insane.
The sheriff's office. You would get some weird calls, like the Dunkin' Donuts truck that, hit the Krispy Kreme truck or something, and
Are
it's
you
like,
serious?
It's stupid things like that. But no, some of the calls are interesting. As far as you asked me earlier about cases that I have or am currently working, you get some high profile cases. And just like an attorney, I'm under confidentiality agreement. So every time I sign up a case, I can't really talk about it until either the client releases me to talk about it, and the case is resolved. But I've been involved in some very interesting cases. It's when you're helping a client towards in a lot of family law situations where you have high profile figures that are either going through family issues or going through criminal proceedings. It's good to help out, and you want to make sure that you're meeting the case to the end. But I tell people my book is going to have a lot of interesting segments on it, but I'm going to have to change the names to. I'm going to have to mix it up a little bit.
Now, what is your take? I've been asking people this a lot lately because I feel like the media is not talking about it because it's not a flashy city. How bad are things getting in Baltimore? Is this just a one-year wonder, or do you see this just getting worse and worse, Andrew? There have been 300 murders in that city this year, but what we find important is fucking red coffee cups. So do you think, I know you don't live on the East Coast, but what's your take on that whole madness in that city?
Well, you have cities in the United States that have been violent for years. Black on black crime. Chicago is, extremely violent. But as far as law enforcement, and this is kind of my conspiracy theory, so hear me out here. When you have a state agency or the federal government looking to disband a city police department, that equals trouble. So you have like agencies in Florida that a lot of these little beach agencies that have been dismantled, and the sheriff's office will take them over. Well, think of that on a large scale where you have a city that is going through a lot of violence, and the city police department is being ostracized. You want everybody's like, well, we need to do away with this city. We need to do away with the chief. We need to make some changes. Well, then you come on, who's gonna police the people? Who's gonna govern that city? And then the state will step in, or you will have maybe the government step in. So think about it 50 years from now, where you have all these agencies, these police departments, these sheriff's offices that have been under the gun and no longer, according to the public, are capable of performing their duties as the law enforcement agencies. The only agency that's going to be able to step in is going to be the federal government. And you're going to end up with a police state on the federal level. So it's a very, we have to be careful about what we ask for when it comes to a violent city and how we're taking care of that issue. The issue isn't always to disband the police department and have the government take it over. I think the last thing we need is to have the government policing our cities, because then we become, like every other third world country out there.
Now, where do you see everything going in the next 50 years? Is it just going to keep on getting worse and worse because of social media, or will things calm down and we'll just go back and look on this era? Where do you see everything going? Because real quick, I don't know if you've seen the movie Idiocracy with Mike Judge.
I have.
Is that movie coming to life, dude? Because I was
close.
watching it last night. That movie is a documentary, dude.
It's getting close. It is. So as a nation, we just need to kind of take our stupids and kind of direct them on how to carry themselves a little better, I believe.
I think social media is making things bad because now you can hide behind the keyboard like a piece of dirt and speak your mind, and social skills are at an all-time low now because you can just say what you want online. Like, if you read any comment section online or the tweets I get, whenever I get recognized in public, like when I met you at Carlton's birthday, it wasn't like you said, you're an awkward piece of shit, like some of the crap I get online. Like, I just think we're going down this bad path, but everyone overlooks it because it's not a fun topic.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. When you were in school, were you in that generation where you got a trophy for 6th place?
Oh, yeah. This is funny. I played soccer, and I never scored a goal, but they gave me the MVP trophy in 2003. And I remember I was like, wow, Dad, I got the MVP trophy. He goes, you know, everyone on your team got the MVP trophy, right? And I remember even as a third grader, everyone else is like, who cares? We got a trophy. And I just remember sitting there on the car ride home and, dude, I feel like the biggest loser.
Yeah, and I think we have to kind of set our kids up for being a little more thick-skinned. Everything offends somebody these days.
Fake outrage. We have to be offended by coffee cups. It's like, shut up.
Right. And, you know, I'm so laid back these days. I feel like my my adrenaline rush, my desire to, I guess, be excited after you know, my land speed record is 186 miles an hour. I used to race motorcycles, and I've been in police pursuits, and I've been in a lot of little fisticuffs, and you have to learn to just accept what you have, and just because one little thing annoys you, just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You don't have to make it an issue just because one little thing annoys you. It's not the end of the world.
People need to quit caving in just because there's an online petition or there's tweets. There are billions of people on this planet. Is a Facebook group with 5,000 offended pussies really representing the masses? That's what drives me nuts. Like, they always try to get media members that are outspoken fired.
Well, and
and that. It's sad, dude.
Yeah, and that's why I wouldn't want to be in law enforcement these days, because you figure you go to maybe 12 to 18 calls during the day, and I imagine in some cities it might be more. But imagine every day having to do everything perfect. And if you don't do it perfect, you're going to piss somebody off. And, I mean, when I would make an arrest, okay, think about going to a domestic where you have a wife and a kid and a neighbor, and you have somebody might be going to jail. So you take somebody to jail. In that situation, you're never going to please anybody, So if a wife calls the sheriff's office and says, my husband's beating me, and you show up and you take him to jail, well, obviously he's not happy. If you show up and you don't take him to jail, the wife's not happy. If you do show up and take him to jail, sometimes then the wife even tries to kick your ass. So, I mean, you can't always make the right decision. Then if you do everything right and you think the case is great, your supervisor might be pissed off at you, or the state attorney might be pissed off at you because you did something wrong in the report.
Did you ever see any regular couples and it was just like, come on, guys, like,
you get the regulars where it's like, oh, Nancy and Jed are fighting again in the trailer park, and it's just okay, or somebody's pig's out in the middle of the road again.
Sort of like Reno 911 kind of.
Right, and I worked, believe it or not, and Florida does have a pretty bad gang problem, and I worked with a lot of the gang activity, and you would get used to a lot of the same gangs shooting at each other's houses, and it's just like, okay, whatever, put it up.
With y'all's DV calls, like, we are required to take somebody to jail. If we're going for that DV call, it's required. We cannot leave there without somebody. So is y'all's the same way, or was it?
It's been kind of misconstrued. Technically, if there's a complainant and you show up and there's evidence of an injury, yes, you're required to take somebody to jail. If there's no evidence of an injury, technically you can only make an arrest if there's probable cause to make an arrest, if there's evidence of a crime. If somebody's signing an affidavit stating he hit me and there's no physical evidence, are arrests being made with that affidavit? Yes, they are. You can thank O.J. Simpson for that. But technically, you can forward it to the state attorney's office and make them, make them put the decision in their lap. But the problem with that is, if I, as a cop, show up and I don't see any evidence, and I forward the what's called a capious request or information to the state attorney's office, and I go about my evening, and then 3 hours later, somebody ends up getting killed, who's going to get called on the carpet for that?
Yeah.
So law enforcement officers in this day and age are in the cover your ass mentality. And that's why a lot of, the complaints that the people are making are ending up biting them in the ass, because law enforcement officers do not have an easy way out. They're screwed either way. So the easiest thing to do is to separate the parties permanently, which is, okay, I'm going to put somebody in jail, and after I put somebody in jail for domestic battery, they're going to have a no contact order automatically placed on them, and it kind of separates the family, and it the officer's allowed to go home to their personal life and live their remaining hours off shift, not worrying about if they're going to get a call from their supervisor in 4 hours and be told that somebody's been killed at a call they were at.
And now, before I let you go, because I really dig this segment, because usually this show is me ranting or me and Kyle just like shooting the shit, but you really expanded my brain, and I want to get a thing where they can ask you things online or via email, and then you come on the show and answer it for us.
Sure.
Or we tweet it out. So before we let you go, where can people find your work online? And maybe they need something fixed. Where can they find you online?
If they have Twitter, they can go to Tampa PI.
Yeah.
My website is carltonlitigation.com. And if they have a case that they want to hire us on, and remember, you don't have to have an attorney to contact us. We work with several law firms, so obviously if they have a situation, they can call me. Having an investigator is a lot of times a first go-to before you even contact an attorney, because what we'll do is we'll gather the evidence you need for either if it's a civil suit or even a divorce type situation. We can help them prior to doing that. But the toll-free number that we have is 1-866-639-0581. And we'll definitely talk to anybody that's willing to listen. They want to send me a tweet and ask me a question. I'll be happy to answer it online.
And I'll be sure to feature you on my website as on the page Friends of Happy Hour, because I really want to promote your work, because I appreciate you reaching out to me online, because I've been trying to find a segment that brings more intelligence to the show. So I appreciate you sitting in on Happy Hour, Andrew.
Absolutely. I had an excellent time being here, and I'll be back soon. We'll figure out the next time you want me in, and you let me know. I'll be here.
Sounds good. Up next, me and Kyle will break down that piece of shit known as Jared Fogle. Happy Hour. We'll be right back. Hang on.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour.